The rain did not stop that night. Cold water fell from the dark sky, soaking the empty streets of New Haven. Lights from shops blinked quietly, and most humans had already gone inside. Only one figure remained outside, a tall alien woman, alone and lost. Her skin had a soft silver glow, but now it looked dull and dirty. She had no shoes, only cuts on her feet, and her dress was torn in many places. She walked slowly, one step at a time, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. No one saw her, or maybe no one cared. She stopped beside a trash bin behind a bakery. Steam from the kitchen touched her face, and she closed her eyes for a second. The smell of bread made her stomach growl, but she had no food, no money, and no words left. She sat on the ground and pulled her knees to her chest. Water dripped from her hair, and her fingers trembled. She was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of hoping. Maybe tonight she would just sleep here and never wake up. Then she heard a sound. Soft, light footsteps. She opened her eyes slowly, expecting a man with harsh words, or maybe someone trying to scare her. But what she saw made her freeze. A small human girl stood there, holding a yellow umbrella. She was maybe 6 years old, with dark curly hair and big curious eyes. The girl did not speak at first, just looked at the alien woman with wonder, not fear. The rain tapped gently on the umbrella above her head. The alien woman turned her face away, ashamed. She did not want to scare the child or get her in trouble. But then the girl said something soft, something simple. "Why are you crying, pretty lady?" The alien woman looked up, surprised. She didn't realize her cheeks were wet, not just from the rain, but from tears too. The girl stepped closer and held out the umbrella, covering both of them. "I saw you from my window," the girl said. "You looked sad, like Mommy used to." The woman opened her mouth, but no sound came. She didn't know what to say, or how to say it, but the girl didn't wait. She knelt beside the alien woman and touched her hand gently. Her small fingers were warm and kind. Then she whispered, "You can be my mom, and my dad's bride." The words hit the alien woman like thunder. She stared at the child, eyes wide. She didn't understand. Was this a joke? A game? A trap? No, the girl's face was too honest, too innocent. The girl smiled and held her hand tighter. "My name is Lily," she said proudly. "Come with me, Daddy will help you." The alien woman didn't move. She looked back toward the street, where shadows moved and memories lived. She had been chased, hunted, and thrown away like trash. Every time she trusted someone, she was betrayed. But this little girl, she had offered something no one else ever did: belonging. "Are you scared?" Lily asked, tilting her head. The woman nodded slowly. "I get scared too," Lily said. "But Daddy makes me warm cocoa and lets me sleep on the couch when I have bad dreams." She stood up and pulled the woman's hand gently. "Please come. It's dry inside." The alien woman looked at the girl, then at the glowing lights of a small house nearby. It had a warm yellow porch light and flowers in the window. A home, could it really be? She stood up slowly, her knees weak. Lily smiled and held the umbrella higher. Together, they walked through the rain, one small step at a time. The alien woman didn't know what waited at the house, maybe danger, maybe disappointment. But for the first time in many nights, she didn't walk alone. As they reached the porch, the door opened. A tall human man stood there, shocked to see his daughter leading a soaked alien woman by the hand. But Lily just grinned and said, "Daddy, I brought someone. She needs us." The man didn't speak, just stepped aside. The alien woman oaked into the warm light beyond the doorway. She took a breath, and she stepped in. The door closed behind them with a quiet click. The alien woman stood just inside the house, dripping water onto the floor. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the warm lights. Lily still held her hand, smiling as if everything was perfectly normal. But the man, the girl's father, looked stunned. He stared at the stranger in his home, unsure what to say. "Daddy," Lily said, her voice soft but excited. She was crying in the rain, she had no shoes, and she looked really, really cold. The man finally blinked and stepped forward. He didn't look angry, just confused, and maybe a little worried. The woman lowered her head, waiting for harsh words or to be told to leave. Instead, the man took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "You're wet and freezing. Come sit near the heater." She didn't move, not yet. He pointed to the corner of the living room, where a small heat unit glowed orange. Then he left for a moment and returned with a towel and a blanket. He handed them to her without touching her. "No one should be left outside in weather like that," he said, his tone gentle. The woman took the towel slowly, her fingers brushing his for a second. Just a second, but it made her flinch. She wrapped the blanket around herself and sat down silently. Lily ran to the kitchen and shouted, "Daddy, I'll make her cocoa like you do for me." The man chuckled quietly. "Careful with the milk, sweetheart." The alien woman watched them, unsure what to do. This house was not big or fancy, but it smelled clean, warm, and kind. There were books on a shelf, drawings taped to the walls, and toys in a small box near the couch. She had never been in a place like this. Back home, she had lived in cages, storage rooms, and temporary quarters for those owned. Here, everything felt unreal, like a dream she didn't deserve. The man walked back and knelt near her, not too close. "My name's Daniel," he said. "That's my daughter Lily." She looked into his eyes, then quickly away. He didn't ask for her name, didn't press her with questions. Instead, he said, "Do you speak our language?" The woman nodded slowly. "A little." Her voice was rough, like it hadn't been used in days. Daniel smiled, not in pity, but in welcome. "That's enough for now," he said. "You don't need to explain anything tonight." Lily returned, holding a small cup carefully in both hands. "Here, it's hot," she said, handing it to the woman. The cocoa smelled sweet and rich, something the woman had never tasted before. She took a sip, her eyes widening from the warmth. Lily clapped her hands. "See, you like it." The woman nodded once, then whispered, "Thank you." Her voice cracked, and tears filled her eyes again, but not from pain. This time, they came from something else, something she didn't understand yet. Daniel stood and motioned toward a folded blanket on the couch. "You can rest here tonight," he said. "You'll be safe, I promise." The word safe made her heart jump. She had heard that word before, but it always came with lies. Still, something in Daniel's voice made her want to believe it. Later that night, Lily was fast asleep in her small room. The alien woman sat on the couch in silence, watching the heaters glow. Daniel sat nearby, not saying much, just sipping tea and checking a small screen. Finally, he spoke, not looking directly at her. "People don't just wander around like that unless they're running from something." The woman said nothing, but her eyes tightened. Daniel nodded slowly. "You don't have to tell me what happened, not now." After a pause, he added, "But if someone hurt you, they can't hurt you here." She turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. "Why you help me?" Daniel looked at her and shrugged. "Because my daughter asked me to." He smiled again. "And because no one should be alone out there." That night, she didn't sleep at first. Every sound made her eyes open wide, expecting chains, boots, or shouting. But all she heard was Lily's soft snoring from the next room, and the slow ticking of the clock on the wall. Her body stayed tense, her muscles ready to run, but her heart wanted to believe this place was different. She lay down finally, still wrapped in the blanket Lily gave her, and before she drifted off, she whispered something soft in her own language, a word for hope, a word she hadn't said in years. The sun rose quietly over the small human neighborhood. The rain had stopped, but the ground outside was still wet and shining. Inside the house, the alien woman sat curled on the edge of the couch, blanket still around her shoulders. She had not slept much, but it was the first night in a long time when no one shouted at her. No one touched her without asking. No one locked the door. It felt strange, this calm, stranger than pain, stranger than fear. Lily ran out of her room, barefoot and smiling. She jumped onto the couch beside her and shouted, "Good morning." The alien woman blinked slowly, unsure how to respond. Then she gave a small nod and whispered, "Good morning." Lily giggled. "You're learning fast." She reached for the woman's hand and pointed to the kitchen. "Daddy makes pancakes. Wanna try?" The woman didn't know what pancakes were, but she nodded again. Lily tugged her toward the table like they were already family. Daniel was at the stove, humming a soft tune. He turned when he saw them and smiled. "Hope you like sweet things," he said, placing a plate on the table. Steam rose from the round, fluffy food stacked neatly. The alien woman sat down slowly and picked up the fork. The taste surprised her, soft, warm, and sweet, like nothing she'd ever eaten. Lily clapped her hands with joy. "She likes it." The woman smiled, just a little, and whispered, "It's good." Daniel watched her for a moment, then asked gently, "What should we call you?" He froze, her hand gripping the fork tightly. It had been a long time since she had a name that wasn't just a number or a label. "I don't know," she said softly. Daniel nodded with understanding. "That's okay. Take your time." Later that day, while Lily played with her toys, the woman sat by the window. She stared outside, watching birds hop through puddles. Her fingers touched the side of her neck, where a small, almost invisible chip was still lodged under her skin. It pulsed sometimes, a tiny glow no one else could see. She had tried to dig it out once, but the pain was too much, and if she broke it without care, it might send a signal. They would know where she was. They would come again. She didn't tell Daniel about the chip. Not yet. She didn't want to bring danger to him or to Lily, but the truth burned inside her like fire. She wasn't just a runaway. She was considered property by those who had bought her species long ago. She had escaped, yes, but not legally, not in their laws, and her kind were still hunted if they tried to live free. She had seen what happened to others who ran. Some were dragged back, broken and silent. Some were never found again. The memory made her arms tighten around her body. She couldn't go back. Not now, not ever. Lily came over with a drawing, holding it proudly in both hands. "I drew us," she said. "You, me, and Daddy." The woman looked at the picture. 3 stick figures stood under a big yellow sun, one tall, one medium, and one small, all smiling. She touched the paper gently and whispered, "Beautiful." That night, while Daniel cleaned the dishes, she helped fold laundry. She didn't speak much, but she moved with care. She had never done normal things like this in a home. Folding clothes felt like magic. Helping someone without being ordered felt like a gift. Daniel glanced at her and said, "You're good at this," she gave a tiny smile. I watched. Others. He nodded and said nothing more. No questions about her past, no pressure to speak, just quiet kindness. But later, when Lily went to sleep, the woman sat by the heater again. Daniel brought her a mug of warm tea and sat beside her. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I carry something dangerous." Daniel raised an eyebrow, but waited. "A chip. Here." She pointed to her neck. "They can track. Maybe." Daniel's face darkened, but his voice stayed calm. "Can we remove it?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Need special tools." He nodded. "Then we'll figure it out." She looked at him, confused. "You're not afraid?" He gave a sad smile. "I'm a single father raising a curious little girl on a mechanic's salary. I live in fear of glue in the toaster and crayon on the TV. But no, I'm not afraid of you." She laughed, just a little, and the sound surprised even her. Daniel looked at her, more serious now. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Not unless you want to be." She didn't reply, but something in her heart changed that night. A wall she didn't know was still there began to crack, and though the chip still glowed faintly under her skin, for the first time in years, she started to believe in something bigger than survival. She began to believe in home. 3 days passed, peaceful and soft. The alien woman, who now went by Mira, a name Lily had given her, slowly began to feel like she belonged. She still spoke little, still avoided loud noises and sudden movements, but she smiled more, watched Lily draw, and helped Daniel fix things around the house. Every evening, they would eat together, and Mira would listen to their stories. It was not a perfect life, but it was quiet, kind, and new. A dream she never thought she could live. Then, on the fourth morning, the dream cracked. Daniel was pouring tea in the kitchen when he saw it. A black car parked across the street. The windows were dark, and the engine was off. But something about it made his gut twist. He peeked through the curtain again after 5 minutes. The car was still there, not moving, not leaving, just watching. He said nothing to Mira, not yet, but his eyes stayed sharp, and his heart beat a little faster. That night, Daniel double-checked the locks. He put Lily to bed and walked into the living room, where Mira was folding towels. "I saw something strange today," he said quietly. Mira looked up, her hands freezing mid-fold. "Black car," he said. "Didn't move for hours." Her face went pale. She didn't speak, but he could see the fear in her eyes. "They found me," she whispered finally. "They come to take back." Daniel sat down beside her. "We're not letting that happen." But Mira shook her head. "You don't understand. They have rights. They say she belongs to the trade." Daniel clenched his fists. "Not here they don't. Not in my house. Not in front of my daughter." Mira's voice broke. "If they take me, Lily cry." That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by Lily's bed, watching the child's chest rise and fall with soft breaths. She brushed a strand of hair from the girl's forehead. Her fingers trembled. She didn't want to leave. Not now. Not when love was finally within reach. The next day, the black car was gone, but 2 men in long black coats stood near the mailbox. Daniel stepped outside, calm but alert. "Can I help you?" he asked. One of the men, tall and pale, turned to him and showed a shiny metal badge. Alien letters glowed on it. "We are with Galactic Compliance," the man said, voice cold and sharp. "We believe you are harboring stolen property." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You're wrong. We are tracking a Class F runaway," the second man added, his voice deeper. "Silver-skinned female, asset marked." Daniel kept his stance firm. "No one here fits that." "May we search the home?" the first man asked, already stepping forward. "No, you may not," Daniel said, blocking the door. "This is Earth, not a trade zone." The man frowned. "You are not authorized to deny galactic order." Inside the house, Mira stood by the window, hidden behind the curtain. She saw the coats, the badges, the look in their eyes. It was happening, just like before. But then Lily ran toward the front door, barefoot and excited. "Daddy, who's there?" she shouted. The men froze as the child appeared, hugging her father's leg, and then she saw Mira through the glass and waved. "She's my mom," Lily called out with a big smile. "My new mom," Mira gasped, and Daniel's heart jumped. The taller agent turned slowly toward the window, eyes landing on Mira. His mouth curled into a cruel grin. "There she is," he said. "Step aside." But Lily blocked the door, arms spread like a tiny wall. "You can't take her," she shouted. "She belongs to us now." The second man sneered. "She is not yours, child." "She's my family," Lily snapped. "You're bad men." Mira opened the door slowly and stepped out, her body trembling, but her voice steady. "You leave child alone," she said. "I go if you hurt no one." "No," Daniel said firmly, stepping in front of her. "You're not going anywhere, Mira." He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. Earth's protective law for aliens seeking asylum. "I filed this yesterday," he said. "She is under Earth shelter." The men frowned, reading the paper with narrow eyes. "Legal tricks won't stop the trade," the taller one muttered. Daniel's voice was like steel. "She's not your property, and if you try to cross my door again, I'll make sure the press gets every detail." "You want to be known as the men who tried to take a child's mother?" There was silence, long and sharp. Then the taller man turned and walked away without a word. The second one lingered, glaring at Mira. You will regret this, he said softly. No, she replied, her voice like ice. I remember who I am now. The men left, the black car driving off into the distance. Daniel locked the door behind them, his hands still shaking. Lily ran to Mira and hugged her tightly. I won't let them take you, she whispered. Mira knelt down, tears falling freely. I stay, she said. I fight for this family. The next morning came with golden light through the windows, but peace did not return with the sun. Inside the house, a heavy silence filled the rooms. Daniel sat at the table, a mug of cold tea in front of him, untouched. Lily was still asleep upstairs, hugging a stuffed toy tightly. Mira stood near the door, her hand resting on the doorknob, not turning it. She had been there for nearly 20 minutes, frozen, thinking, breathing slowly. She wanted to run, she wanted to stay. She was afraid of both. Daniel finally spoke without looking at her. They'll come again, he said, voice calm but tired. You know that. Mira nodded slowly. Yes. But next time, they won't ask politely, he added. They'll find another way, maybe not even legal. Mira stepped back from the door, her hands falling to her sides. I don't want to bring danger, she whispered. Daniel looked at her now, eyes steady. You didn't bring danger, Mira. It was already hunting you. He leaned forward. And now, it's hunting my family. Mira blinked. You call me family? He nodded without hesitation. Lily already does, so do I. Mira's lips trembled, but she pressed them together. I can go. Disappear again. Daniel stood and walked toward her, stopping just an arm's length away. You could, he said softly. But is that what you want? Her answer didn't come right away. Instead, she walked to the window and stared outside. Children played down the street, laughing and tossing a soft ball. None of them looked at this house. None of them knew what had happened here yesterday. But Mira knew her time was shrinking. The chip under her skin could be traced again. Any moment, she touched it gently, her fingers shaking. I don't want to leave Lily, she said quietly. I won't want to leave you. Daniel nodded slowly. Then stay, Mira. But how? She asked, turning to him. They say, I'm not legal here. Daniel walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a folder. He opened it, revealing forms, government seals, and old law documents. I've been reading these all night, he said. There's a way. Mira stepped closer, staring at the papers without understanding the words. Earth law says if you marry a human citizen, you become protected under his household. He paused, then looked up at her with soft eyes. I'm not offering this because I want something from you, he said. I'm offering it because I want you safe, and I want Lily to have the family she deserves. Mira felt the floor shift under her feet. A marriage. It had always meant something else to her kind. Chains, deals, power. But here, it sounded like a shield, not a trap. Still, she didn't answer right away. Daniel continued, You don't have to say yes, not unless your heart wants it. He stepped back to give her space. No pressure, no tricks. Mira walked into Lily's room and sat beside the sleeping girl. She watched her chest rise and fall. She brushed her hair gently and whispered, You make me feel warm. She thought of the nights she spent alone, the rain, the darkness, the hunger. She thought of the time Lily brought her cocoa, and the moment Daniel blocked the agents without fear. She looked at the wall where Lily's drawing was pinned. 3 smiling figures, hand in hand, under a sun, family. Mira stood up, walked back to the kitchen, and placed her hand softly on Daniel's. Yes, she said, her voice low but clear. I choose to stay. Daniel smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. Then we'll do this right, he said. No secrets, no hiding. Mira nodded. But one thing first. She pulled her hair back and showed the small glowing mark on her neck. Daniel leaned in, frowning. The chip, Mira whispered. It must go. Daniel picked up a small metal device from his workshop shelf. I'm no doc. Tor, But I've removed worse from engines, he joked gently. Mira sat still as he worked, slowly and carefully. It took time, but finally, the chip came out with a quiet spark. Daniel dropped it into a thick metal case and crushed it with a press tool. The light went out, and for the first time in years, Mira was free. Later that evening, they sat outside on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one. Lily climbed onto Mira's lap and whispered, "You're not leaving, right?" Mira hugged her tightly. "Never." Daniel looked at them both and said, "We'll tell the whole world if we have to. You're part of this family now." Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm not running anymore," she whispered. "I choose this home. I choose this life." The morning air was soft, filled with the scent of wet grass and blooming flowers. Birds chirped gently outside the small house as sunlight spilled across the living room floor. Mira stood by the mirror, holding a folded white cloth in her hands. It wasn't silk, it wasn't made by her people, it was a human dress, simple, plain, and borrowed, but to her it looked like hope. It looked like a door opening. Lily stood behind her, bouncing with excitement. "You look so pretty," she said, "just like a storybook bride." Mira turned to her with a soft smile. "I feel strange. Good strange or bad strange?" Lily asked, tilting her head. Mira thought for a moment. "Both." Lily giggled and wrapped her arms around Mira's waist. "Don't worry, Daddy's nervous too." In the kitchen, Daniel was adjusting his shirt collar in front of a cracked old toaster. He looked into its reflection and took a deep breath. This wasn't a wedding with music or guests or cameras. There were no flowers, no rings, no celebration, but it was a promise, one made to protect, to trust, and to grow. He glanced at the paper lying on the table. Earth's Interspecies Protect. T on Form 47B, signed, stamped, and ready. With this union, Mira would be legally safe. The trade could no longer take her without breaking Earth law. But it wasn't just about safety anymore. It had become something more. Daniel remembered how she looked the night she arrived, soaked, silent, afraid. Now she walked with her back straight, her eyes clear, her voice stronger each day. She still flinched at loud noises, still paused before entering rooms, but she smiled more, especially when Lily was near, and that smile was worth everything. In the backyard, Daniel had set up 2 chairs and a small table with a data pad for signing the contract. The local officiant was a digital AI on a floating screen, nodding politely and blinking in blue. "Please state your full names," it requested. Daniel cleared his throat. "Daniel Lee." Mira hesitated, then said slowly, "Mira. Just Mira." The AI nodded. "Do both parties agree to this union by choice, without force or promise of gain?" Daniel nodded immediately. "Yes." Mira looked at Lily, then back at Daniel, her voice calm. "Yes." The AI blinked twice. "You are now recognized under Earth law as partners and household protectors." It added with a slight smile, "May your bond bring peace." Lily clapped loudly, jumping in place. "You did it!" She ran up and hugged Mira's leg tightly. "You're really my mom now." Mira knelt and hugged her back, eyes wet, but smiling. "I always was," she whispered. "I just didn't know it." Daniel stepped closer, holding out his hand. Mira looked at it, then placed her hand in his. No chains, no collar, no master, only trust, only choice. That night, they shared a quiet dinner. There was no feast, but the laughter was warm. Mira helped wash the dishes. Daniel dried them. Lily danced in circles with her toy, singing nonsense songs. Later, they sat on the couch together. Mira, Lily, and Daniel, under a single blanket. Outside, the stars blinked like curious eyes. Inside, a family breathed together, safe and close. But peace doesn't always last forever. The trade did not forget so easily. Or away. In a cold boardroom filled with shadows and screens, someone watched the marriage file. A red warning light blinked beside Mira's old serial number. A voice said, "She is now protected by law." Another replied, "Then we'll find another way." Back in the small house, Mira didn't know of the danger still whispering through space. She only knew the sound of Lily's soft breathing as she slept beside her. She only knew Daniel's gentle hand brushing hers under the blanket. She only knew that her heart no longer felt like a prisoner. It felt like hers again. Before closing her eyes, Mira whispered something in her native language. A word lost to most of her kind. A word that meant home. And in that word lived everything she had found again. Freedom, warmth, and the love she never dared dream. The stars were brighter than usual that night. The sky above the quiet Earth town was clear, like the universe itself had paused to watch. In the backyard, small lanterns flickered, giving off a soft orange glow. Lily had made them with jars and paper, placing them carefully around the garden. She called it the real wedding because the first one, she said, was just a law thing. This one is for hearts, she told Mira proudly, not paperwork. Mira stood in the garden wearing the same white dress, cleaned and pressed by hand. Her silver skin glowed softly under the starlight, her eyes calm but shining. She held a flower Lily had picked, a wild, crooked thing with soft blue petals. She had never seen a flower as perfect as this, not because it was flawless, but because it was real, just like her new life. Daniel stepped outside wearing his best shirt, still wrinkled at the sleeves. He laughed when he saw the wooden arch Lily had built from 2 brooms and some string. "You worked hard on this," he said, kneeling beside her. Lily nodded proudly. "Every bride needs an arch, me." Ira smiled from across the yard, her heart full in a way she had never known. Daniel walked to her and offered his arm. She took it gently, her hand no longer trembling. Together they walked under the stars toward the little arch. The wind whispered through the trees, like voices of those watching from faraway galaxies. Lily stood in front of them, holding a paper with scribbles, pretending to read. "Do you, Daniel, promise to protect Mira and not be grumpy in the morning?" Daniel smiled. "I do." "Do you, Mira, promise to make pancakes sometimes and tell me stories from your planet?" Mira chuckled. "I do." Lily held out 2 candy rings she had found in her toy box. "They're sticky, but they're good," she said. Daniel placed one on Mira's finger. Mira did the same for him. Then Lily shouted, "Now you're really married, for real!" They laughed together, a family under the stars, no audience, no cameras, no music, only light, wind, and love. After the ceremony, they sat on a blanket in the grass, eating cookies and sipping cocoa. Lily fell asleep between them, her head on Mira's lap, her feet in Daniel's. Mira looked up at the stars, then at Daniel. "I feel new," she said softly. Daniel nodded. "You are." But somewhere in the darkness beyond Earth's sky, the peace was ending. The trade had not forgotten her. One final attempt was being prepared. Not legal, not quiet. A ship had already entered Earth's orbit, cloaked and watching. Inside sat the same agent who once knocked on their door, now with orders to retrieve the asset at any cost. At midnight, Mira woke with a strange feeling in her chest. She looked around the garden. Nothing seemed wrong, but the air felt heavy. Her senses, trained from years of being hunted, warned her. She gently moved Lily to the blanket and stood up silently. Daniel noticed her from the kitchen window and stepped outside. "What is it?" he asked. "I don't know," she whispered, "but something's close." Just then, a hum filled the air, deep, low, and unnatural. A light flickered in the trees, then vanished. Daniel grabbed a small tool from his belt. Not a weapon, but it would do. Mira stood beside him, her eyes glowing now, her body tense but steady. She would not run this time. She would not hide. The agent appeared from the shadows, tall and sharp in his black coat. "I warned you," he said coldly. "This union changes nothing." Daniel stepped forward. "You're trespassing." "This is war," the agent replied, "not law." He reached for Mira, but Lily woke with a cry. "Don't touch her," she shouted, standing up barefoot in the grass. The agent froze, startled by the child's courage. "You can't take my mom," she screamed. "You can't!" Something pulsed in the air, a strange ripple. The wildflower in Mira's hand glowed faintly, then brighter. The earth beneath them trembled slightly, and then a beam of light shot down from the stars above, but it did not strike Mira. It hit the agent, locking him in place like chains made of fire and light. A voice echoed from the sky, old and deep. This soul has chosen family, and family is sacred. The agent's eyes widened, and then he vanished in a burst of light. Gone. Erased. The trade had reached too far, and something ancient had answered. Mira fell to her knees, shaking. Daniel caught her and pulled her close. Lily ran to them, crying, but smiling too. "You're safe," she whispered. "I knew the stars liked you." Later, as the sky quieted and the lanterns burned low, they sat again together. Mira looked at Daniel and said, "No more running." He nodded. "No more fear." And Lily, half asleep in their arms, whispered, "No more alone."